Our event today is the first of the spring semester. We are co-hosting this talk in collaboration with the Latse Project, a public nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting Tibetan language use and literacy. For more information about the Latse Project, please see latse.org, and I'm going to put that with its spelling into the chat as well. We also want to express our thanks to the Weatherhead East Asian Institute at Columbia for their sponsorship. It is a privilege to welcome our guest speaker today, Loden Sherab Dagyab Rinpoche, one of the most influential Tibetan religious teachers and monastically trained scholars in exile. He is a now retired researcher from the Institute for Central Asian Studies at Bonn University and founding director of the Tibethaus in Germany. As this is such a rare opportunity, we are recording the event. We have asked Rinpoche to focus today on his experience of the 1950s, from his time as a young lama of an influential monastery in eastern Tibet until his escape into exile in 1959. Pema Bhum, director of the Latse Project, will loosely interview Rinpoche as a way to structure the conversation. But first, to introduce Dagyab Rinpoche more fully, we have asked one of our rising stars here at Columbia, PhD candidate Riga Shakya, to present briefly on the wider span of Dagyab Rinpoche's life, including his scholarly contributions. Riga?
Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Riga Shakya. I'm a PhD candidate in Tibetan history here. And I should start by saying that it's an honor and privilege to moderate an event involving two teachers who have left a big impact on the way I think about Tibetan history. So as Rinpoche will be speaking on the events of the 1950s, in my brief remarks, I'll offer a condensed life narrative as means of an introduction to those who may not be familiar with his very storied life. Loden Sherab Dagyab Rinpoche was born on July 27th, 1940 in Minyak, in the Kham region of eastern Tibet. At the age of 4, he was recognized as the reincarnation of the 9th Dagyab Gebgun. The Dagyab Gebguns have been the spiritual heads of the Thaya region in eastern Tibet and carry the title Hutuktu Nominhan, which was bestowed in the 4th Dagyab Gebgun Lobsang Namgyel by the Kangxi Emperor. During a time of great and destructive change across the Tibetan plateau, Rinpoche, as one of the highest ranking lamas of his period, served as a dignitary in some of the most crucial political committees in 20th century Tibetan history, namely the Chamdo Liberation Committee following the invasion of Chamdo in 1950, and the Preparatory Committee for the Autonomous Region of Tibet, or PCART, in 1956. It was against such a turbulent backdrop that Rinpoche pursued studies at Drepung Loseling Monastery in Lhasa, where, among other teachers, he was tutored by the Venerable Geshe Pema Gyaltsen. Following the Tibetan national uprising in Lhasa in 1959, he escaped to India with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, where he pursued further studies with Gebje Ling Rinpoche and Gebje Tijang Rinpoche and received the Geshe degree. From 1964 until 1966, he lived in New Delhi, where he directed the Tibethaus, an internationally recognized institute for the promotion and preservation of Tibetan Buddhist culture. He was then invited by the University of Bonn in Germany to work as a researcher at its Institute for Central Asian Studies, where his main interests included Tibetan Buddhist symbols, iconography, and religious art. During his time at Bonn, Rinpoche worked with colleagues such as the esteemed Mongolist Professor Walter Hessig and Tibetologists such as Klaus Sagaster, Dieter Schuh, and Peter Schwieger, while maintaining contact with Tibetologists based in China, such as Chen Qingyin. And some of his now China-based students include the Mongol scholar Un Bilig Bojigadai and the Buddhist scholar Shen Weirong. And in my closing slides, I'm just giving you some of Rinpoche's most notable publications. Rinpoche has published very widely in English and German, and his works have been translated into Chinese. And notable among these are one of the earliest, if not the first, Tibetan dictionary in Exile, and a well-known handbook of symbols. He most recently edited and compiled the collected teachings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama under the title Gewe Gongse. And Rinpoche is an outspoken and reformed-minded critic of the Dugu reincarnation system, and he continues to give Buddhist teachings around the world and established the Tibethaus Deutschland in Frankfurt, and also founded the Taya Project, an organization committed to developing social projects in Taya and Minya. So after this brief introduction, I'd like to formally start our event. Thank you.
Thank you, Riga. That's excellent. With that helpful background, I would now ask Pema Bhum of the Latse Project to please begin. Pema and Rinpoche will speak for about 50 minutes or so, and we will then open the event for questions. Attendees may type your questions into the Q&A box. They, I believe, will not be visible to everyone, but we will be relaying them. Riga has agreed to serve as moderator, and he will relay them as able to Rinpoche in the final 20 minutes or so. Okay, Pema and Rinpoche, I'll just let you know when we're at about the 50-minute or hour mark there. I think Riga, you and I can stop our video and mute ourselves. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm very, very privileged to speak to you and a good number of audience who are interested in modest, some part of Tibet history. So today is, as we all know, hosted by the Modern Tibetan Studies Program at Columbia University, New York, and the Latse project combined with the Weatherhead East Asian Institute, also New York. And so therefore I would like to thank to both institutions, and I also would like to thank you, Lauren Hartley and Riga. I'm very happy and glad to meet my friend, great scholar Pema Bhum again, and we will discuss a little bit after my talks. So today, I should focus about my biography. Biography in the sense of it's not only expressed on what I did, how was my previous reincarnation, and so on. That's what from the spiritual point of view, but as a human being, how I was, whether I had a good childhood or not, and how was my childhood, and how brought up, where I brought up, what was the circumstances at that time. All these things are, for me, is actually more interest. So therefore, I also would like to share some, so to say, stories to you. I was born, as you recall now, 1940 in Minyak, which is very far from the central Tibet and the east part of Tibet. And this is the quite close to, for example, from my hometown to the Dazido, which is in Chinese, Kangding, and sometimes in the English literature I read, Tachin Lu. So never mind. So Dazido is a border town, one of the most famous, just like, if I may say, a small Hong Kong, because this is a very, very business center. And this is also Chinese politically and so many the military powers also taking place in that place. So therefore, the business, both business and politics and military activities taking place in Dazido, just like a small Hong Kong. So from Dazido to my home country, hometown is only 71 kilometers. So when I was, I think about, we don't have exactly date, but about when I was 3 years old, someone somehow took me or recognized me as a reincarnated Lama from the local monastery, Gyuaka. And the past Gyuaka Lama was teacher of Mr. Liu Hui, who was the late governor of Tazendo or Sichuan, as well as Sichuan. So he was a disciple of Gyuaka Lama. So therefore, he gave so much support to recognize me as Gyuaka Lama. So there people took me into Gyuaka Monastery. So I think we have a Gyuaka Monastery's picture as well. So I don't know whether we can show now or not. After I was recognized the Duke of Dagyab, after I been more or less 2 years in Gyuaka as Gyuaka Lama. So then I will explain a little bit later the stories. So as soon as type people, type delegations allowed to meet me in person, so then they recognized me and then give me new clothes according to tradition and put me such a throne and took this photo. And the next photo, please. It's actually the same occasion, but in monk's dress. That's right. This is one. So this was, I think, age of 5, when I was 5 years old. So next, please. And so then, this is the Liu Hui, who was the governor of Sichuan, as well as Tazendo, maybe we can say like this. So he was born in 1895, and I don't want to explain so many stories about him, but so he was for some time got strong backing from the juncture, and later he was after the when they started the Communist Party of China, Communist China started, then he also changed his political position and met the Chinese late Prime Minister, and they planned so many things. One of the important things is to set up the Xikang province. Xikang province, West Kham province, which is more or less side by side from the Sichuan. And theoretically, Chiang Kai-shek gave him permission to set up this local administration, that's the provincial administration. That was 1939, but it took so much time, and he could realize that to be set up properly. And after the Communist Chinese came out, he met Zhong Enlai in Chongqing, 1942, and talking about very much for the further development. And later he got also very, very high prices as well, and so many other titles. And which age of 81, in 1976, he passed away in Beijing after suffering quite long periods. So this Liu Hui was definitely interested in Buddhism, but it was also important to believe, to communicate with Buddhist dignitaries. And as I mentioned earlier, he was also a student of Gyuwa Lama, so therefore he supported Gyuwa Lama, and because of that, I was in the throne of Gyuwa Lama for some times. After recognition, me as Gyuwa Lama, the search people from the tribe arrived in Tatsedo, which is about over 30 people. And so they would like to accept me, receive me, and bring me to tribe, but I was already more or less occupied. So therefore they have to wait for Liu for another, I think, about 2 years in Tatsedo, because Liu was very much engaged with the military and political powers, and he spent most of time in Sichuan, in Chengdu. So therefore, the people need to wait. It's not very easy to travel to China like today. So it takes so much time to reach there, because it's the only way is to travel with horseback. There's no motor, the road for the motor or whatever. So therefore, it is also troublesome. So, however, after some time, maybe after 2 years or so, he came back. Liu came back from Chengdu to Tatsedo, and then tribe, such people, such party was allowed to meet him, and they asked him to release me to go to Taiyab. And then he said, in this between time, for the period of 1 year and 9 months, I have to be under the Chinese protection with 10 or 20 Chinese police guard, and lived in Ngamchu Gamba Monastery, which is in Tatsedo. Ngamchu Gamba is also very, very historical spot, because it was actually more or less, I can say, it's established by the 5th Dalai Lama. During the 5th Dalai Lama's visit to China, and both way, he spent at least a few days in Tatsedo. And for about 1,000 years ago, the Tatsedo was a very small town, although it was a quite interesting place for the business. So there are only 10 families to live there permanently. But later it's become bigger and bigger. And however, there's one family, the name is Sakarangopa. And this Sakarangopa is most well-to-do people, and they also have their own private chapel. And 5th Dalai Lama mentioned or advised them to extend that temple and make it to a proper monastery. So because of his ideas, his advice, so people tried to set up proper monastery, and it was a success. And after several years, at least during the 5th Dalai Lama, it's become a really proper monastery. Name is Ngamchu Gamba. The name was also given by the 5th Dalai Lama. So then, after that, Taiyab search party me allowed to give me their own new clothes and change the entourage, because during my stay in 1 year and 9 months in Tatsedo, only my assistant were from the Gyuwaka monasteries and Gyuwaka monastery. So now I'm no more Gyuwaka Tuku, but Taiyab Tuku. So therefore, all the staff members need to be changed. So therefore, at this time they give me new clothes and then take also these photos. And then later I was invited by the Liu at his office, and to give us, all of us, a big lunch or dinner, I don't know, however. And I remember him that time, and he is not very like this in the photo, but just the old Chinese tradition without having belt, which is a black one. And he gave me, I only remember one thing, he gave me a very beautiful porcelain Buddha statue. And then also many, many other things as a gift, and especially seal. During the old time, to award seal is very, very significant. And this seal mentioned that the Shikam Yerden Sewe Nije Hotu Ketu Papa Chui Tanga seal of Dharma King, if I may make short, Dharma King in the territory of, that's right, this one, this territory of West Kham. And through this seal, we also got a problem later with the Tibetan government. As soon as I arrived at Dagyab, of course, Chamdo, the central government's administrator, informed that I received this seal. And then first they said, we would like to see your new seal. And then, of course, we have to show them. And then he didn't give me back after for some time, some years. And after he changed his post, and the new administrator, which was Shalu Sawan Shemu, then Dagyab Lama requested to get it back, to give it back us. So then definitely we need to pay quite the number of whatever, quite so many things. So however, we got it back. So this is the last seal that actually this is the only seal that I received in my lifetime. And other seals that Riga kindly showed was during my fourth reincarnation. I'm supposed to be ninth. So this is the main seal, most important seal, as a Dagyab Jamgun, Hototo nominant. This is the most higher ranking Tibetan Drugu. So this is a very old one. And these are the one of the, I don't remember now exactly, one of these is given by seventh Dalai Lama. And there are also some seals received from the Pension Rinpoche, Pension Lama, and another Dalai Lamas give also, my previous reincarnations give also seals. So all in all, I don't know, maybe we have a quite big collection of seals, and maybe around 15 to 20, I don't know exactly. So every seal will be preserved very nicely, put in box, special boxes. But the usage is only the most important one, and then 7 Dalai Lama's seals. These are the most precious one, most legal one. So that was my time in my birthplace. And now I have to leave from my home together with my parents. And from there, from Minyak, my hometown, to Dagyab is 671 kilometers away. So that's good to see now, because my birth town is quite close to Chengdu. However, it's a border town. And from from Latse to Chamdo is 267 kilometers away. So now from Minyak to Dagyab, as I mentioned, 671 kilometers. And we, of course, we need to go by horseback, and we visited several monasteries as well. And later, after I got reached the Dagyab, I became 6 years, because at that time we only counted with the New Year as was one's own year, right? And we don't recognize any birthday, exactly birthdays, but its birthday is the same as the New Year. So therefore, on the New Year day, first month of first day of first month, I arrived in Dagyab at the main monastery. And so we had big celebrations, and also presented president of the Tibetan government's representative from Chamdo, and there are many other neighboring countries represents are also there. And then later, after I think that was 1950, early 1950, I would guess. So now we are seeing a picture. This is the Dagyab map, and the right side is Bugun, and left side is Magun, I presume. I can't see, it's quite small. So however, one part is the main part, another one is the secondary part, so to say. If I may explain a little bit, maybe it's also good to have this map. During my first reincarnation, which is Kashu Trapa Gyato, born 1572, he was a simple monk from this area, from Dagyab area. But the name of Dagyab wasn't existed, but only 3 or 4 different kinds of major territories. And then he went to the Central Tibet for study. And he studied in Rate Monastery, in Sangpo Monastery. Rate College in Sangpo Monastery, better to say like this. And he also studied many other monasteries, such as Ganda Monastery, Tapo Monastery, Drepung Loseling Monastery, Rading Monastery, Samye Monastery, Dansatil Monastery, and so on and so forth. And he studied also not only the Gelugpa tradition, but also another tradition as well. And at the end, he got examination, Gachu examination in Sangpo. And then one day he he was called by the 4th Dalai Lama Yente Gyatso, and he said, oh, you need to go back your home, and it will be most beneficial for the people. And please go back and do this and do that. She gave so many the advices, and give also very precious gifts. And then he went to the this area, today's type area, and now we can see next picture is a mountain. If it's possible to see that. No, mountain, hill, mountain. And on the mountain, there's one rocky cave, and he meditated there for some years. And because of that, Tak is a rock, and Yap is a cave, rocky cave. So because of his Buddhist practice, Buddhist meditation under the rocky cave, he was also known as Dagyab Lama from Rocky Cave. So that was the first common name. And after finished his retreat, he gave several teachings in various places in that today's type area. And the people was very much interested, very much devoted to him. And he also, his source, the giving teachings, not only his responsible, but also social services, such as support for the beggars, needy people, and give support to those who have some conflicts between one family to the other family, or one village to the other village, or one area to the other village. There are so many different kinds of quarrels and fightings and so on. So he conducted as, I don't know how to say in English, but he tried to speak both parties and become put into a harmony state. So he was very successful. So this is the tip of that mountain is his cave situated over there. And so now we can see next one is, please back. This one, we can see a house. This house of tribe Jangus. I think at that time there must be small monasteries. And when I was small, I also was there to do some meditations. And the rocky cave is just under this house on the right-hand side. And so that was that. And then, so however, please keep this. You can keep that photos. Okay,
Yep,
sorry.
yep.
So anyway, so he became very popular teacher in that area at that time. So therefore, many peoples from actually 4 different kinds of territories, today's type, asking him to be their own teacher, their own caretaker. And then he accepted. And then through these activities, these 4 major territories become one big territory, which is known as Tayyap latterly. So this is the today's Tayyap. So now there was that. I need to explain a little bit history. And after he passed away, Kushi Khan came to Tibet. Kushi Khan was 1582 to 1654. And the disciple of my first reincarnation met Kushi Khan and asked him about the Kashutapa Gyasa, my the first reincarnation's good deeds. And he was delighted, and he said, now we need to do more officially activities. So that means he fixed territories from east to the west, north to the south, which area belongs to which is not. So make very clear about the borderline. So that was that. This is also a very important part to explain at this time. And later, and the 4th Jamgun and the 6th Jamgun, Riga explained already with the seas. So now I need to go back to that mountain again, because once when I was in Magun, in the Tayyap, at that time, there was just one Chinese man. He was, I don't know, from earlier time, somehow maybe he married to a Tayyap girl or however. In my time, he lives in Tayyap and he's a carpenter. He's a carpenter, but he's the only Chinese in our territory. in the whole Tibet. There's no other Chinese. And then the communist Chinese military getting into the Tibet from the east. So therefore, the people was very much excited. And sometimes I must say, one side is very much frightening, other side is a little bit look forward to get the Chinese, to have Chinese, to receive Chinese, because from the central Tibet government give so much pressures in our subject. So because that our subjects were suffered so much, there's got a lot of burdens, so that we cannot count tonight. And so therefore, the Chinese was most welcomed. And then one day, I got information the Chinese really arrived. And then I was on that mountain to do retreat. And on the same day, I can see it in the valley with the Baba Pinso Wangje, most dignitary Tibetan Chinese. One leads many, I think about 300 liberation armies doing, playing music, drums, and so on. Went to the, get into the Tibet area. And after a few days, suddenly some of my staffs from our main town to receive me and said, the Chinese would like to see you. And they brought the Mao Zedong, Zhu, Liu Shaoqi, and Zhu Enlai, the four major Chinese leaders, picture about Tanga size, big one. And they brought, and then they put all these pictures on the wall, and I should welcome them and be nicely talk to them and so on and so forth. Maybe after 1 hour, the Chinese arrived and give some sweets and some Chinese tea and some small gifts. And then after sometimes I have to go back to my monastery, and then because the Chinese insisted me to participate the first conference of Chamdo territory. What was that? That's right. And that meeting in Chinese language is Chamdo Diqu Renmin Jiefang Weiyanhui. It's a council of liberation armies in Chamdo area, something like that. So I have to participate, and then I was there in Chamdo, and this picture was taken when I was, I think, 8 years old, or 10 years old, and Pinso Wangje, who led the Chinese soldier through the Tibet into Tibet, and he's from Ba area. He's a Tibet communist, maybe first Tibet communist. So, however, he was very kind to me, and we took this photo out of the conference hall. And by the way, this hat, and on top of the, I don't know what's in the English name, but there's a Vajra symbol. This hat is presented by the Chinese emperor, and during my fourth or sixth reincarnation. So this is supposed to be very, very precious one, according to our title. And we also met next Wang Qimei picture. This is the highest leader at that time, Chinese leader, Wang Qimei. He led that conference. He was a zhuren, and among the zhuren, there are, I think he's the only main chairman and chairperson or chairman, and then we have another maybe 7 or 8 the voice chairmen, Papa Rinpoche, highest Lama of Chamdo, and myself, Queen of Dege, Prince of Dege, and another Prince of Dege, Kesan Wandi, and the Prince of Wandi that we saw with me together, he was, and then the Chinese leader, Hui Rang, and probably Ngapu, I don't remember exactly that he was at that time, but however, so all of us in the participations. And then, so after that, I need to go to Central Tibet for study, and then when that was 1952, end of 1952, I was, when I was received Lhasa, of course, the Tibetan government welcomed very, very warmly, as well as from Chinese side, they also set up a special place to receive me. And so that was 1952 and 1953. I received, I got audience by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and then we met official way, but not really personally, although I met him in his room, but there's no small talks. Whatever he asked me, I was allowed to give an answer, but I am not allowed to put any question. That's a protocol. That's protocol. And however, I invite him in the assembly, monks' assembly prayers in Lhasa during the Malam festival. And about, there must be about the 18,000 monks or something like that can be participate. And in 1956, so during this ceremony, I also, we also have to present quite much of money and whatever to the monks. So therefore we try, do we have a Tayang? That these are only Tibetan coins. This is the only Tibetan coins. Before that was the 2 Nepalese coins. Tibetan coins was produced in 1792. That was the first time Tibet government issues their own coins. And before that, Nepalese coins can be used in Tibet. And before that, that's right, this is Nepalese coins. And otherwise, before that, we just exchanged the material things, right? If you buy some barley, you can pay with the sold or whatever. So something exchange. I think there's a bartering systems. It's very, very popular, very common in Tibet. So and then in 1956, set up the Chinese arrived in 1952, 1953, and so on in central Tibet, and they set up the autonomy regions, preparatory autonomy regions of Tibet, Council of Preparatory Tibetan Autonomy Regions. This in the Chinese name is Xizang Zhichu Taobei Wei'anhui. So that was the big organization. And during this committee, we got a group picture. In the middle of the picture, we can see His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. In his left is most dignitary Chinese representatives, Masha Tingyi. He was, I think, Vice Prime Minister. And then next to him is Panchen Rinpoche, in his left hand. And then at the end, on the very right side, this is me. And then on the left side of the picture, but the opposite of me, this is Papa Rinpoche, highest Lama of Chamdo. And then we also can see in the behind the next row, another picture. There's also group picture. So that's right. Also the behind of the Dalai Lama, we also can see Karmapa and other Tibetan ministers and Chinese high-ranking peoples also we can see there. So these are the next picture, please. And this is the middle of this Chinese Masha Tingyi, Chinese representative. On his left side is Papa Rinpoche, and his right side is myself. So we both of us, the two Trukus, highest two Trukus, regarded as highest Trukus in the Kham area. So because they would like to take such a picture. And then after this, they set up 14 departments under the preparatory committee. And Papa Rinpoche got the some sort of head of the religious department. And I got the name of head of the nomads department. And in Chinese, Shumu too, Shumu's nomads activities. And later they changed a little bit, and from the 14 different departments become into the 10 departments. So our department changed into others. So I become the chairman of the development department. And I also got some title and the standing committee members as standing committee members and as permanent committee member of Buddhist Council of Chinese Buddhist Council. This is also they feel very important. Tibetan Buddhist Council of Chinese Buddhist Council. So this was my time for some years in Lhasa from 1956 till 1969. So this is also quite an amusing, interesting picture during our committee, during our conference. So we need to, very frequently, we need to calling out, such as long life Mao Zedong, long life the Chinese Communist Party, long life the unit of the long life, the ethnic unity, and so on and so forth. After every toast, we need to shout together. So this was the also very interesting for that time. And now the last part is 10th March of 1956. So I have to be in the Chinese administration every Saturday and every Friday. Every Friday is the whole day's participation in our own department. And on Saturday is the preparatory committee meetings. And mostly Dalai Lama will also participate. And if Benjamin is around, he also will join. So therefore, I had a chance to see more or less every week on Saturday. And before that, we also need to study the Mao Zedong's writing. And such a red book, or maybe sometimes just newly printed papers will be disputed. And Papa Rinpoche and myself will need to sit always together. There's no possible to change or to come another in between two of us because of our ranking. So therefore, we are also very good friends. And we just sit very close together and lift the papers. And people think as if we are studying very thoroughly, but in fact, we are just chatting behind the papers. We are just papers. And after sometimes, I'm now talking about the 10th March. After sometimes, the Chinese members have become a bit restless. And then we ask, but no one explained thoroughly. And then become more and more restless. And after sometimes maybe 12 or 1 o'clock, something like that. And they said, we need to go to the Chinese military camp. And then we left for separately and reached the military camp. Theoretically, on that day, in that spot, the Chinese will invite His Holiness for some evening show on behalf of His Holiness's Geshe examination to celebrate and so on and so forth. But however, His Holiness couldn't join because so many thousand people arising at the Nobulinka and shouting and requesting Dalai Lama not go to the Chinese invitation, participate in invitation. So we are now in the military camp, and then after sometimes I can see from the window the ministers going by jeep, coming and going, again and again. There are many, very, very restless, but we don't know anything about in detail. But after sometimes, maybe about around 4 o'clock or something like that. So then people say, oh, this is a Chamdo Papa Rinpoche's brother was killed by the Tibetan mass, Tibetan people. And then Rinpoche says can't be, and so on and so forth. But at the end, at 5 o'clock, they started the evening meeting led by Tang Guan-san. Tang Guan-san was Chinese general. And of course small one, he became totally, he has very red face and totally angry. And then he shouted so much, and it was very frightening. Even if I think now, after 60 years, over 60 years, it's also quite, can become quite restless. And then he said, so actually we would like to invite Dalai Lama for celebrate for his examination, but the reverse doing the restless in the country. So now we don't have any responsibility. We cannot take any responsibility for Dalai Lama's life. And so on, so many long talks with hitting with the force and on the table, and very frightening. So, however, after that, they show some dances, but I was totally shocked, and I really can't see or didn't see dances properly. And after that, then we can go out, and then I thought, how can I get home tonight? Whether I can get home tonight or not. And because to the main door, up to the main door from the hall, the hundreds of Chinese soldiers just standing in between the Chinese soldiers to the right side, right and left shoulder of mine touched with Chinese soldiers. So we need to go, we need to pass through the Chinese soldier. So it was very frightening. So they can, for example, Papa Rinpoche, they took from the support and bring somewhere else. And I thought I may also get, I will take it out and couldn't get home tonight. But however, this way, luckily I got out. And after that, we faced to the Drepung Monastery. And how we go back home in the monastery. My car is first. In front of my car, one full truck of Chinese soldier. Before that, one truck with the military. Then my car. Behind me is military truck, and behind us one truck. Behind us one big bus for the monastery abbots, and behind us also the military truck and a tank. So this way they bring us back to the monastery. So that was actually the really very close experience in my life, which was very frightening, and which was very, how should I say, one cannot think what will happen, how can we happen, what can we do? There's no, we cannot do anything, we cannot think anything, except only to wait. So that was a very difficult situation, give a difficult time. And then somehow later, I got a chance with the help of my assistant. Without their help, I cannot go anywhere because I was young and 19 years old, and I have no power. I have no right to move anywhere without having permission or agreement from my assistants. So from the Labra, and then organized I need to escape, and I went to the southern part of Tibet, and then at the border of India, China, I met His Holiness Dalai Lama as private meeting, as man-to-man, very first time, not official, but just really personally meeting. And then he was very happy that I was also escaped, and he asked me, please join me in my group. So I was very lucky to be able to allow me to join in his group. And we reached in India 1959. That was, I think, on the 13th of April in Mussoorie. So that is actually short summary about my stay in Tibet. So I hope you could understand a little bit because of my broken English and so on. But anyway, I hope at least you got some information. Thank you very much for your attention.
Rinpoche, I just want to say that I'm sure I speak for everyone in expressing how grateful we are to you for sharing so openly your personal experiences in such vivid detail. Your memory is astounding, and grateful for you sharing so openly, and yeah, including your feelings about things as well.
Thank you.
It was really a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to invite Pema. I know that he Thank you. He did some preparation for this as well, and he had a couple of questions that he would like to ask you in more detail. And then Riga, why don't we use the last 10 minutes or so for questions from the audience, okay?
Yes,
Right. Pema.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Rinpoche Duche. As a Darinjaya, the Gaushio John. Yeah, I prepared some questions, but time consuming, I selected some questions which for publicly not knowing so much. Okay, some of them just comments. Okay, when is Rinpoche just introduced just focus on his current life? And of course, he covered some previous lives. But actually, in Tibetan, traditionally regarded Rinpoche as the reincarnation of one of the greatest Tibetan scholar and translator, Loden Sherab. Born in 1059 and 963 years ago. And he translated 72 works from Sanskrit and wrote 43 original works. He authored the first Tibetan orthography, which standardized Tibetan spelling and grammar. That's the first time. I have a few questions about that, but and hope you might remember some of the details. But I still ask you another time, as this is not our topic today. What I ask you also another comment and question regarding Liu Wenhui. Liu Wenhui, one comment is as for he being a Tibetan Buddhist, he had a really big altar with becha, statues, tankas, etc. in his home that was Tibetan style. Generally, this altar should not exist still after the Cultural Revolution, but somehow his altar was donated to Tibetan Buddhist College in Beijing. I had the opportunity in 2015 or 2016 to see that altar. You are his guru's incarnation. Probably your previous incarnations objects are there. My question is this: as a Buddhist, it seemed he was drawn to Tibetan culture. He had a lot of power, and his family was very, very wealthy. Do you know if he sponsored or supported any Tibetan culture project while he was governor of the Shikhanshen? Wasn't there a Tibetan language newspaper then?
Yes. I got some information. From this text. I asked one of my relatives in Tibet, and I don't know from which, what kind of source of this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is handwritten.
Yeah.
And then I also read somewhere else that Liu was, although political benefit, but he was also very, very close to the high-ranking lamas and high-ranking and the people in the societies. And he set up, he helped up to restore the monasteries, and he set up the student schools and he tried to be friendly to the major people. So these are what I found in his life story. But otherwise, I have not much information. I only can remember that his sitting room or receiving hall or whatever, audience hall or whatever, there's a lot of Buddhist tankas. Buddhist tankas, and of course, the old Chinese is very much oriented with spiritualities. So therefore, so he was also very respectful to me, and so maybe it's both interested in Buddhism and also political issues or skillful methods to be friendly with all this, I think.
Okay, Riga and Laurel, I have another time. I have time. Ask another question.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Okay, Rinpoche, I want to ask about the Wanchmi. Wanchmi seems probably you have had more time to spend some time with him. And I read some different texts we learned. Wanchmi is actually didn't trust Tibetan people, even cooperate with the Chinese government that time. According to Phuntsho Wangyala, even he didn't trust Phuntsho Wangyala and the Ngapunga Wanjime. At one point, Wanchimi suspected Ngapunga Wanjime might poison him. And actually, Ngapunga prepared a really good party, even he respected Jain that. This is even after the signing of the 17-point agreement. Yeah. And I think Rinpoche spent more time with him. Did you feel any that kind of suspicious from Wanchime?
No, I don't have any this kind of idea or feeling, because I was a child at the age of 10. And what I only remember is he's very, very kind to me. This reason is very funny reason, because Pawara Rinpoche and myself, we both of us have the same rank. And as you know, in our Tibetan old system, the protocol is very, very important. And who sits on the right side of Wanchime, who should sit on his left side? Right is a better position than left. So therefore, the Chamdo Labrang is insisted and watching all the time, every day, that I will not sit on Wanchime's right side. And one day, both of us children, so we have not much interest on that. We just have, what we have is only follow to the adults. And one day, by chance, I was on the Wanchime's right side. I sat on Wanchime's right side, and Rinpoche was on the left. And one of the Pabala's assistant came and lifted me, put on the Wanchime's left side, and lifted Pabala and put on his right side. And maybe that time I was a bit shocked or whatever, I don't know. So Wanchime holds my hands very frequently and give me some sweets and let me to drink very attention. He paid me so much attention. That's actually my time with him is only during the conference. I don't know how many days, took place, this conference. But later, I don't think that I don't remember that I met him again in Lhasa area.
Pema, you need to unmute yourself. Pema.
Okay, last question.
Yes.
Okay. After China took over Chamdo, there were constant small-scale conflicts between Tibetans and Chinese. But when we viewed more broadly, we see that they still all move ahead. They signed the agreement, and they built big road, and His Holiness make trip to Beijing, and preparation were made for the Tibet Autonomous Region. Seemed moving really smoothly, but did you feel any sense before March 10th uprising, that some this sort of what might happen?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I can't say anything. Yes.
Okay.
In fact, a person like me, just symbolically being in the participations in the conference, and even it's weekly or occasionally or whatever, just as a figurehead or whatever, just symbol. But in the reality, for the working, of course, working you cannot expect from the child, which is a teenager, who can lead such nomad activities or such construction or instruction and the developments in the countries and so on. Of course, we cannot do anything, but however, so we doesn't have any, but except only to sign. We need to sign so many papers every week, but this is only deal with nomads and the development projects.
Also, Rinpoche to channel that in Jago.
That's yes.
Thank you, Rinpoche, and again, Bemala, for such a valuable discussion. I think we're going to turn over now to audience questions, of which we've got a few. So if questions are being handled through the Q&A box, and I'll try and take as many as we can with the time remaining. So first question, Rinpoche, we've got a question that says, could you please tell us a little bit about your family background and its position in the local community of Minya?
Okay, my family, my father was a farmer, and on top of that, he was shoester. Is it an English word? Shoester, making shoes.
Maybe a cobbler, shoemaker.
A shoemaker. Yes, shoemaker. And my mother, coming from the nomads area, and she went for several years in Tadzendo to work at the family as a I don't know, the as a household work. And later came to in our house also for work, to make clean and cooking and a little bit getting water and getting wood and so on. And then my father met her, and then we got together. We have to shift out from our main family house, because if son of the family house met with a servant, you are not permitted to be together in the family. So therefore, we need to be out. And my father built a small house, and we three left there, and we got some share from our main family house, which was very, very limited. But somehow we can survive. And my father goes to get some offers or works from the different families to produce some shoes or clothes and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try and get a bit of variance in the types of questions I'm taking. So there's one about Rinpoche, your academic experience and your extensive experience in Tibetan studies in the West. So we have a question asking your thoughts about the way in which the discipline of Tibetan studies has developed in the West, and if you could share some of your perspectives on the field in general, or maybe some perspectives from when you were teaching at Bonn.
Well, I studied in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery. Because of that background. And on top of that, I also I got many instructions from the special grade Tibetologist, which is junior teacher to His Holiness. And whenever I need to help, whenever I need to ask someone, he is more or less the only person that he supported me. And through this way, somehow I can start to research work at the Bonn University. But for me, it was very big struggle, because the modern scientific way to work is different that we are traditional way to do it. So therefore, I need to go through so many different problems, and after some years, then of course, slowly I got idea which way and how should I have to work on that Tibetan culture as a research fellow.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'm getting several questions, and I'm going to try and combine several questions. So I'm getting a lot of questions about the Benjen Rinpoche. So perhaps a general question. What were your interactions like with the Benjen Rinpoche? Could you please speak a little bit about this?
About my feeling to Benjen Rinpoche.
Your relationship towards him, if you could.
My relationship with His Holiness Benjen Rinpoche is very, very sincerely. Although he was very powerful man, I wouldn't say at all that he was not very friendly. He was very friendly, but the way of his talking is more or less to give us pressure that I have to do this and so that and so on. If I compare with His Holiness Dalai Lama, so Dalai Lama give also not pressure, but give an idea, what should I do, how should I do, but it's a more simple way and more friendly way. So therefore, I always had not problem, but great respect to meet His Holiness the Benjen Rinpoche. And then also his way of talking is very, very, very political, very, how should I say? It's a bit too demand for me. And he was also very, very nationalistic.
Thank you. And also, I'm getting several questions about your thoughts on the Dugu system Perhaps you could share your thoughts on the Dugu system. There's a specific question: Are there changes in your position on the Dugu system? If so, please explain.
Yes, I made thought for several years, actually since my childhood, because I went also that system. I went through that system, and I never believed that was the good system. But at the end, I really understood that's not a good system. And therefore, I made clear that as far as my own Tiku system is concerned, I decided on 2016, made publicly that I'll be last Tibetan. And I hope that also many other Tukus will end their own Tuku lineage. The reason is two. One reason is before the Tuku system took place, there was many great teachers such as Milarepa, Mabalotsawa, and Atisha, and great Tsongkhapa, and so on and so forth. So many great teachers. They were so-called natural Lama. None of them reincarnated, and none of them recognized as Tulku. So therefore, on behalf of the Buddhism, on behalf of the benefit for the sentient beings, it's not necessary at all being Tulku as teacher. And through the being as Tulku, it arises so many other problems, material problems, power problems, and so many other problems. And we also had enough experiences during in our histories in the past. So therefore, for example, I'm just saying, even in the exile society, as Tuku become more and more Tukus, what will happen? And Tuku value is just going down. People don't respect it that much as we in Tibet does. Number one. Number two is many Tukus behaviors not according to Dharma. So therefore it's more harmful than helpful to have a Tuku system in our society. That's my idea.
Thank you very much. And of course, Rinpoche has authored several pieces on proposed reforms and criticisms of the Drupa reincarnation system. So these can be additional readings for people interested in the topic. And I think we've reached time, and unfortunately can't field any more questions. I would like to thank Rinpoche and Bhum for their participation today and for sharing such rich information with our audience, and also to Loden and Modern Tibetan Studies, Weatherhead, Latse project for their work behind the scenes. Loden, any closing?
Thank you, Riga. Yes, just so in closing, I too would like to thank the Weatherhead East Asian Institute for its sponsorship. Riga, to thank you for your help in organizing and for moderating this event. Pema Bhum of the Latse project for serving as discussant. And above all, to you, Rinpoche, for your clarity, your wisdom, your inspiration and leadership in service of Tibetan Buddhism, thinking about Tibetan society more generally, and to the field of Tibetan studies and historical research in that area. It's really been a privilege. Thank you very much. And to all of the people who tuned in today for your interest as well. Thank
So
you.
I also would like to thank you, all of you, to support, to help, for this events. Thank you so much. Hope to see you sometime, somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.